see you again.
Who cares?
The vampire got me.
That was my dad who was, I had to bring my dad there yesterday, so. Yeah, I can't see any, I can't recognize anybody with it's terrible.
Yeah.
So everybody, I think everybody should wear like a name
They should
tag
have their
on
name
their
on their
mask.
mask, exactly,
Right,
yeah.
that-
Yeah.
and then we all get away
Yeah.
with it. Especially nurses.
Not anymore.
All right, at 6:31, I'm going to call this meeting of the City of Laconia Planning Board to order. Could we have the call of the roll, please?
Stacy Susie,
Yes, here.
Charlie St. Clair,
Here.
Bruce Cheney,
Here?
Rich McNeil,
Here.
Louis Joseph,
Here.
Peter Burnett,
Here?
Mike Delavecchia,
Here.
Scott McWilliam,
Here.
Brett Bellevue,
Here.
and Dean Trefethan.
Here.
All right. Looks like everybody would be a voting member this evening. Staff in attendance, Dean Trefethan. Taylor, is it?
Yes,
What's your last name?
Taylor Daigle.
Taylor Daigle is our recording secretary this evening. I think Kalina's running a marathon or something, right? Anyway. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the September 6th meeting? And were there any suggestions for changes? Sensing none, then I'll declare the minutes from the September 6th meeting accepted. We're going to start off tonight with a special treat, a presentation from the Winnisquam Watershed Network. And I assume that our conservation chair is, Dean, is going to address this. So if you want to come up. Are you the presenter for this one?
I am not.
Oh, okay.
That would be me.
Oh, sorry. Well, I see him and I figure he's gonna go to the podium one way or another anyway, so.
He's going to be Vanna White for me tonight.
Oh, he
I'm
is.
Vanna White.
I wanna buy a vowel right now.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Let's not push it.
Okay. Well, please, just state your name for the record and tell us what you're here for, and you may proceed.
My name is Cynthia O'Connell. I am the program manager for the Winnisquam Watershed Network. And I'm here to present the results of the recently completed watershed-based plan for the whole watershed.
Wow.
And I wanted to give you a little bit of information about the network in case you're not familiar with it. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that was founded in 2017.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Yes.
Are we broadcasting?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I don't see anything on the monitor.
It's on the YouTube on here.
No, I mean, usually we see on that monitor what's going out over YouTube. The big monitor on the podium. That way we know if they're following the. Yeah, I better do that too. Because it took me 2 years to learn your name. Hey. Oh, there we go. It looks like the monitor just wasn't on. I wanted to make sure, we broadcast live on YouTube. You would be surprised at how many thousands of hits we get every month.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
A thrill a minute.
You said another vowel. Okay, so that thing's booting up. It says no signal, but we have two highly skilled staff working on it. So you may proceed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's primarily a volunteer organization. I am the sole paid staff person, and
Wow.
I've been with the group for just about a year now. The programs that the network manages include milfoil management, which I know Laconia pays into a fund for, volunteer water quality testing. There's a weed watchers group of volunteers who actually kind of patrol various sections of the lake looking for milfoil and other invasive plants. And we also financially support the Lake Host program at the Laconia boat launch, which is the only public boat launch on Winnisquam. Can you flip that over, please? The front one just, yep, flips over. and you might have to twist it a little. Nope.
Well done, Dean.
So what I'd like to talk to you about tonight is the watershed plan that was completed in July of this year. What you see here on the graphic is the overall watershed of Lake Winnipesaukee, and Winnisquam is outlined in purple. It's a sub-watershed of Winnipesaukee itself. And so the plan was specifically geared to what's outlined in purple. So it's all of the land area where water flows towards Lake Winnisquam. So it's kind of based on topography. As the land rises, the water starts going in different directions. But what you see outlined in purple is the limit of the watershed that contributes to Winnisquam. The watershed plan itself, which I believe Taylor has an electronic copy of if anyone is interested in getting into the weeds on it. It's been in process for almost 3 years. There was a lot of volunteer work that was done originally, and then we were lucky enough to get a grant from the Moose Plate program, as well as an $80,000 grant from the EPA through DES. And that money paid for engineering consulting. It's FB Environmental Associates and the Horsley Witten Group both worked on this watershed plan and did a lot of number crunching, did a lot of survey work. They drove every single road in the watershed, evaluating the various properties. We had volunteers who did a shoreline survey of all of the shorefront properties just to see what kind of shape they were in. And looking at the various issues associated with the water quality in Winnisquam. I think we might be ready for another board, so that one can go down. And if you could turn that one so you can read the text, that would be great. Thank you, Dean.
Look, that was Donna.
So this is a map of the land use within the watershed limits, looking at protected land. Those are the light green ones with the little trees on them, water bodies, marinas, beaches, various different kinds of land use, agricultural land, currently. The plan itself has to meet criteria that are developed from the EPA. So you're ticking boxes on various things. Have you done a water quality study? Have you done a build-out analysis of all of the undeveloped land that's within the watershed? What kind of existing water quality issues are there in the lake? And, you know, I'm sure most of you are very familiar with the invasive plants. But there is also a lot of phosphorus in the water as well, which tends to be carried by sediment. So when stormwater runs off, if the velocity is fast enough, it carries sediment with it. And the sediment winds up in the lake, and it's carrying pollutants with it because the pollutants adhere to the sediment. So phosphorus is really what's the word I want to use? The pollutant of concern, because it tends to mix with other elements in the water depending on how warm the water is, how much sediment is present, and an increased rate of phosphorus in the lake itself tends to result in things like toxic algae blooms. There have been 2 of them that were reported to DES this summer, which I'm sure you're aware of. And one of the primary goals of the watershed plan is to provide a roadmap going forward for protecting this really important economic driver of the region. So the build-out analysis took a look at all of the undeveloped land within the watershed itself and estimated that about 45% of the land in the watershed is still available for development. It's undeveloped now, but could be developed in the future. If all of that land did wind up being developed, the phosphorus load in the lake water would increase, they're estimating, by 54%. So it would be a significant detrimental thing to happen to the lake. So the specifics of the plan, and now I think we're gonna flip that one over. Yep. It's just too much for you? The specific objectives that are laid out in this plan, the first one is reducing the pollutant load coming from Huber Brook. Now, the state is required to prepare a list of impaired waters. So this is any surface water within the state of New Hampshire. And that goes to the EPA, so that they can track where there are problems with pollution in the surface waters in the state. Winnisquam ended up on that list because of an issue that we think came from a small construction project along Huber Brook. And I think that section is actually in Belmont. Am I right about that, Dan? It's a kind of hard to access spot where you're crossing the bridge, Mosquito Bridge, there's a railroad track, and it's difficult to get in there. And we think it was a DOT project, but it did result in quite a bit of sediment winding up in the lake. And that was found, and that is the thing that put Winnisquam on the impaired waters list. But on the upside, it means that the EPA and DES are looking at that and saying, oh, we should do something about the issue on Winnisquam, which I think had something to do with us getting funded for the watershed-based plan. The second objective is to mitigate, either prevent or offset pollutant loading from future development. And the way that that could be accomplished would be taking a look for all 7 towns that have land within the watershed, to take a look at their land use regulations, especially concerning stormwater runoff and how it's treated, how a new project would have to treat stormwater to prevent pollutants and sediment from winding up in the lake. And the third objective would be to reduce pollutant loading from existing development. One of the things that the consultants came up with was a list of 100 high-priority sites throughout the watershed that could be improved with additional stormwater management or some other type of modification that would help reduce the existing pollutant load in Winnisquam. Laconia had 1. Some of the other towns, Meredith has quite a few on the list. Sanborn had quite a few on the list. And let's see, I believe, the other thing that the plan came up with was the source of, I'm going to the next board now. And then that one needs to be turned up too. The primary source of sediment that's entering the lake is coming from gravel roads and paved roads where there are side ditches on either side that they tend to get scraped periodically. I know there was a lot of that work going on this summer. And all the vegetation in the swales on the side of the road gets removed, which allows the water to flow, but it also increases the velocity of the water and allows it to pick up all of this sediment from unvegetated swales and brings that into the lake. If you take a look at this picture here, it's not in Laconia, it's in Sanborn, I believe. That's where Black Brook enters Winnisquam, and you can see the sediment delta from Google Earth.
Yeah.
So one of the things that the Watershed Network would like to do is to ask towns to reconsider how they're dealing with gravel roads because of the impact that the sediment has on the water quality in the lake. And one more, Dean. Yes, please.
If I could interpose a question, is there any, currently, is there any requirement that the towns treat stormwater before it's discharged into the lake?
That happens in more densely developed towns. The EPA has requirements for, I think Manchester probably is an MS4 community. Nashua's probably one. The threshold for some of that is the sheer size of the piped stormwater system in a town. Laconia is kind of borderline. I know you're not an MS4 community right now. So the more densely developed communities have to meet EPA guidelines, and those have become more and more strict over the last decade or so, to the point where there's a lot of money being spent on stormwater management. Because the easy stuff for the result of stormwater, a lot of that, a lot of older communities had, at one point, combined sanitary and stormwater systems. So if there was a big storm event, there was sanitary sewage going into all the surface waters.
Yeah, that's in Laconia's past too.
And that was kind of low-hanging fruit. When the Clean Water Act was first created in the 70s, there was a lot of money available to separate those systems because it was pretty obvious that that was a significant pollution problem.
Yeah, okay.
But what the engineers are finding is that the cleanup got to a certain point and then leveled off. And the conclusion is that the stormwater that's still being discharged into a lot of the surface waters is still carrying sediment that has pollutants. And so the onus is now being put on the communities to test the water that's coming out of every discharge pipe that goes into a surface water. And I mean, this water goes somewhere.
Right.
And the techniques, the engineering techniques in the past have always been, what do we want to do? We want to take the water off the roads, and off the parking lots as quickly as possible and put it in those surface waters. And now we're realizing that, maybe that wasn't the greatest idea. In any case, this plan, which is part of your handout as well, shows the 100 different high-priority sites that the consultants identified throughout the watershed. The Watershed Network has been lucky to obtain a grant through the Department of Environmental Services, which is actually federally funded, to do 3 different pilot projects within the watershed, one of which is the Gale Avenue Park in Laconia. We've been working with the Recreation Department to take a look at, it's a little pocket park, I don't know if you're all familiar with it, but there is,
Like a kayak launch.
it's a little kayak launch, and there's surface water, or there's stormwater coming from the paved roads that are adjacent to it, and it flows over the parkland, and it's eroding some pretty significant ditches. So the concept is to collect that water, let the pollutants settle out, and then slowly discharge it into the lake. And this would be happening in conjunction with other plans that the Recreation Department has for improving the use of that
Wouldn't a
park.
catch basin do that?
A catch basin really is a conduit rather than something that treats stormwater. If you know how they're built,
I
there's,
do, there's usually
there's usually a sump.
there's usually an
bottom.
output pipe that's up, off
Yep.
the bottom of the larger chamber, so the sediment settles and the water, mostly just water discharges.
Right, but it depends on the velocity of the water that's coming into a catch basin. It also depends on the depth of the sump underneath the outlet pipe. Most current catch basins, when they get put in, have a deep sump, it's 4 feet deep usually. But even then, if the inlet to the catch basin has water that's moving quickly enough, the sediment in the sump will rotate and some of it gets picked up and flows out.
Right.
So the catch basin system would need to discharge into something that would hold it for a little bit and really let it settle out.
So a grassy swale.
A
spray.
swale, a rain garden, something like that, yeah. The other two sites that are part of the grant are in the Deer Park Association, which is a private waterfront access community in Meredith, up near the northern end of the lake, and then an area on Callback Road in Sanbornton, which is not actually on the lake itself, it's on Black Brook. And there are two really good-sized culverts on that road. It's a gravel road that's sloped down to these culverts on both sides, and there's a significant amount of sediment coming down the sides of that road. So again, it would be a solution that would slow the water down so that the sediment could drop out. And there probably would be some vegetation being suggested for the roadside swales so that they're not void of any vegetation, because that sediment is really susceptible to a lot of erosion if water is going through it. I am happy to answer any questions that the board might have. And I hope that you will consider referencing the watershed plan in any sort of master planning that you're doing in the future, just as a guideline for how the watershed could be
Mr.
improved.
Chair, I have one question.
Sure.
Going backwards, I may have missed what you were pointing out. You said Sanbornton's got a couple, Belmont's got a Laconia, Laconia has one. What were you talking about then? Do you
I
remember?
was talking about the high priority sites for improvement of stormwater issues. These
Did
are,
you mention that site in Laconia or just
it's the Gale Avenue
that one
site.
there? Okay.
Yeah,
So you mentioned, all right,
yep.
I got
So,
it.
so we got yours.
Thank you.
So, we will ask, if we haven't already, the staff to send us all the PDF. How would the planning board make use of this report going forward?
I would say, look at the suggestions in the land use section. I think Laconia, because you are lucky enough to have staff for a lot of your departments, is probably a little further along in the process of modifying whatever kind of site plan regulations you have, zoning regulations. Is stormwater included in any of the requirements for your site plan applications? And are those requirements up to date? That would probably be the prime thing to look at, would be the land use regulations. And we would certainly be happy to provide any assistance that you might need.
I think the master plan steering committee could make use of it. Yes,
Thank you,
Councilman?
Mr. Chairman. Almost frightened to date myself, but in 1968, I was out on the lake working with a Harvard professor on milfoil and that sort of thing, and sediments, et cetera, so this is not a new problem. But one of the places he was most concerned about, and I haven't heard mentioned tonight, was the state school property.
Do what?
The
The state school property, uh-huh.
There is more than a few dirt roads that feed down to the lake, and I'm shocked. These folks, did they in fact inspect that area?
I believe that they did. I'm not sure if that ended up being highlighted, and I might have misspoken by saying that, Laconia only had one site. They have one site in the 24 highest priority,
Okay.
but there might be a couple of other ones. And the state school, Dean, can you help me a bit with that? Is that this?
It's quite a way up the lake.
Green,
But
light,
it's the-
light green would be the conservation. Is that on that one?
You're right here. Yeah, they're looking on this map.
Yep,
Oh.
okay. So there is a site identified at the state school. And is that land currently owned by the state?
Currently,
Yes.
but they're in the process of selling it. And so I think from a planning perspective, this concern is something that should be added to what we pay attention to
Yeah,
as the development of that property, which all indications are is gonna be a substantial,
it's a big piece of property.
it's several hundred acres, 300, I think, acres. But beyond that, someone buying it isn't gonna wanna put in single-family homes every 2 or 3 acres, so.
Probably not.
So, as that gets developed, I think we need you and,
Oh, that would be great. We'd be
Planning,
happy to,
our
Help however
conservation
we
folks
can.
to be paying attention.
yeah. So is there some sort of RFP that's gone out for the property?
There
at
are
this point?
four vendors who have been chosen to be reviewed by the state for the ultimate, sale.
Hmm.
And Dean might be able to tell you where in the process we are. We're quite a ways along, but we haven't gotten to the end, so we don't, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't know yet who the ultimate vendor might be. I think it's material who the vendor is. What's material is the city should, with your help, pay attention to this in the beginning. There's
Yes.
already a park there, a Hearn Park, I think.
Ahern, but it's not part of the site.
No, but it'll get fed by this,
It's adjacent to it, isn't it?
It has 2 beaches, too.
Yeah.
so,
Well, we should send a copy of this to the governor if she hasn't already,
The
since
governor.
he's the governor and council are ultimately going to be deciding.
I'd
Who gets
send
that?
it to our counselor before I send it,
Right.
our governor's counselor.
Okay.
He certainly should hear this.
Yep. Oh, and whoever's making the decision, there must be some technical people involved in assessing the development plans that are being
One of them sits
bandying
here.
about.
One of them sits here.
Ah, yes, okay. Well, and I guess we got the inside track on that.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's important that we pay attention to this in the early stages.
Upfront.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Absolutely.
beautiful lake, and this Harvard professor at the time, I mean, I was a youngster, and at the time he said, if you people aren't careful, you're not gonna have a lake. It's gonna be a dry hole.
Yes.
I thought he was crazy as a hoot owl, but, you know, years later, I'm concerned.
Well, there was also a movement, I'm not exactly sure of the dates on it, where there was a volunteer group who pushed really hard to eliminate the sanitary sewage that was being discharged into the lake.
Yep.
And that made a really significant difference in the water quality.
It's called the Winnipesaukee River Basin Project.
Yep.
It's been in use now for, I'm thinking, almost 40 years. And it was there were
50 years?
interceptors built along the side of the lake to take sanitary sewage to a treatment plant in Franklin, where it's ultimately discharged downriver in the Merrimack. So, I mean, before that, just by the flow of groundwater, I'm sure that untreated effluent made its way into the lake from septic systems all the time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cover the shore of every lake, and as you point out, there are tributaries to that, to Winnisquam, that contribute a great deal of sediment. So it's good that we are aware of that, and I thank you for bringing it to our attention and for your hard work on this report. Are there any other questions for Ms. O'Connell? All right, well then, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, I appreciate it.
Oh, all right. We
And
have your
thanks for
card.
bringing Donna with you.
It looks like we all have your card, so that
Yep,
you may get some follow-up questions.
that'll be fine,
Yeah.
feel free.
All right.
Did the math.
We have an extension request. It's item 7.1, Woodvale Drive. It's a request to extend the approval to construct a garage within the wetland buffer. This was continued from October 6th. And I guess the extension is being requested till October 3rd, 2023. And you may proceed.
Good evening, everybody. Richard Holmesy.
Good evening.
My partner Brian Iskey wasn't available tonight to come present. He's out of the state. Like everybody, we're probably all sick of hearing of COVID, but we're seeing remnants of it in the construction industry. Basically, our cost of the building that was presented to the board that was approved went from $150,000 to $450,000. So we put the building on hold for a little bit, but during that time period, Morton Buildings, Butler Buildings, and so forth have told us now they're still on a 2 to 3 year waiting list. We've changed the design to go to what we believe we're gonna do is called an ICF building, insulated concrete form building, which I believe they're putting next to Cumberland's right now. So the foundations and so forth are part of the insulation package.
Right.
So we're working on that now. So we're looking for an extension to get a contractor, get a company that'll make the building, and get a company that'll install the building and get everything put in the building.
Okay.
I do have a list for everybody. I can pass it out to everyone. I can give it to Taylor. She can pass it out. It basically is a list of inventory. Let me pass it out.
Sure, if you have copies for everybody.
Or you can just pass them down, sure.
So what's going on the site now? Anything being stored outside?
We have storage outside, and that's what this part of this list is for. We have a lot of the, we've got over $100,000 worth of materials for the project on the site. We got trusses. We've got a couple of machines that are for inside the building. We have cabinetry for the building. We have timbers for the guardrail for the street, for the finished product and so forth. So there's a list I provided to you tonight to kind of give you an idea of what we have there and what's gonna be removed from there once the building is built. The whole concept is that our personal items will be in the building, once the building's built, and there'll be no outside storage whatsoever on the site. We agreed to that back in, I don't know, 2019 maybe, when this all started. And that was part of the deal, was that we would not store any trailers outside. And we're still standing by that, because we're just building this building so we have our assets indoors. Because the assets in this weather take a beating. They get sun beaten and they get snow damage, so we like to have them inside. So I think the list shows you that the assets that we have on the site right now in storage, and then we have some assets that are on the property, like the firewood and stuff from the property. Those are from all the trees there. We're using our resources. And then the stuff down below is gonna be removed from the property once the building is built. And I'd be willing to take questions at any given time, and suggestions as well.
So the items that you've listed in the upper section, they're inside an existing building on the site?
On the site, I have 4 green storage trailers that are in the back, and they're in those storage trailers. But the trusses, as you know, they're 46 feet long.
Right,
Those came, I bought them used from Waterville Valley, and the building they took down. They're Boise Cascade manufactured snow load trusses. They're 46 footers with a 12.6 pitch for the roof, which is what we designed it to be 48 feet. So we are gonna make the building 46 feet to accommodate our trusses. that we bought. And by buying them, they didn't go to a landfill, and we saved ourselves $10,000. So they're sitting on a trailer right now that came with the trusses. And when we use the trusses, we'll dispose of the trailer, same time.
Okay. So, the request that's before us is for a one-year extension,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, but I think I heard you say that you're looking at more than 1 year before you get this done?
No, I hope not, and I don't believe so, but, you know, you just never know. But I can't say, give me 2 or 3 years, but, people like Morton Buildings, they're telling you 2 or 3 years, get on a list, and we'll build your building, and hurry up and wait. And we don't know if we're gonna be able to make that deadline, but you gotta give us, 70% upfront for the cost of the building, and we'll get back to you. And that's
Okay.
what they're giving us. So right now, going with ICF, my business partner that was before you last month, Brian Iskey,
Yes.
his previous company that he sold owns ICF. They're the largest manufacturer of ICF products in the world.
Okay.
So we're hoping that we have a little bit of weight with them to be able to get the products to build it. And the product is just insulated concrete forms. It's like an erector set. You go click, 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 you put it together, and you fill it with concrete.
Yeah.
And then when you fill it with concrete, you've got your insulated walls up, and now you can put whatever you want for sheathing on the inside and outside. So we hope that this is gonna happen, very early spring, we'll start the project, we're hoping. And once we start it, we're not gonna stop till we're done.
Well, Mr. Holmesy, we don't take public input at such things.
Yeah.
More requests for extensions, but I think you're aware of what your neighbors' concerns are about the site. As long as those concerns are taken into consideration, I think we've done our job as far as the deliberations. Are there any questions for Mr. Holmesy? Yes, sir.
Well, I got a
Go
question.
ahead,
in that,
Rich.
Last month, your partner made the comment that your friends and stuff tend to drop boat trailers off to store there and stuff. He stated that at the last meeting. And the issue is, the agreement was only personal stuff.
It's,
And there's been more than personal stuff stored there.
there's 3 of us that own the property, so we're all friends.
So who's the third one?
Me, Chris Rahilly, and Brian Iskey, and the 3 of us own it, but we're the only ones that store anything there.
Glenn Robertson's van was in there for a year.
Glenn Robertson had personal situation where he was having some personal troubles, and I decided to help my friend and let him leave his vehicle there while he was going through a personal situation that I'd rather not speak of. But I think I can leave anyone's vehicle on my property just if they're going through a rough time. So it's not there for,
The
it's not
tough
for,
thing becomes, how does the city enforce whether that's a commercial storage building or a personal storage building when you have people bringing stuff back and forth?
it's not people bringing stuff back and forth, sir, Mr. McNeil. It's one person left a vehicle there because he had nowhere to leave it because he's going through a rough patch.
Okay.
So that's
So-
one, and we're not using the building in commerce, and we made it very clear, we're never gonna use the building in commerce. We're never gonna have commercial signage.
So this list,
Yes.
this is all that will be on the site between now and the completion.
Or anything that I might own, like my pickup truck. My pickup truck is not on the list because it's not there right now, so it depends on, you know, we have a couple of trailers that we own, that we use regularly. We use, you know, to clean up that site, to clean up our own personal properties in the Lakes region. We have a dump trailer that comes and goes, but it's mine, I own it. It says right on it, not for hire. I don't,
Well, what did you make this list up for then, if it's not all-inclusive?
because it hasn't been there for a few months, so it's not like it's a storage yard for storing junk or just stuff.
That's what it looks
I
like.
only, yeah, but it's not. We're just using it until the building's built. And it's strictly personal use. Mr. Iskey and I own 4 properties. Mr. Rahilly and I own 2. So it's just personal use.
Okay.
We're not renting, we're not gaining financial gain. We have no favors owed to us. Mr. Robertson was something I reached out to him and told him, you know what? Go ahead, you can leave your minivan there because you have nowhere to put it until such time that you can find a place or you can afford to put it somewhere. I just reached out to him, let him leave it there. It was pretty straightforward. And now that van is somewhere else,
Okay,
so.
any other questions for Mr. Holmesy?
I believe Dean had said, once the building is up, there'll be nothing on the outside of it.
Well, I don't know about nothing, but no trailers. The only thing I'm gonna leave outside is firewood just for our own personal use. So won't store it indoors. If the building's built properly, if we have the right room, we're gonna have a 4-foot perimeter along the side of the building under the eaves. And we'll put pallets of wood that are there now from the site. We're gonna they're already wrapped up in plastic to keep them dry. And they'll go there, and as we need them, we'll just take them out. But that's the only thing that should be outside is the pallets of wood.
Okay, so I wasn't reading that because at the bottom it just says pallets, so I was just curious.
I didn't get
It
the copy
says,
for myself.
um,
Let me see.
Pallets to be,
Yeah, so the pallets would be relocated behind or adjacent to the building to be kept dry. Those are the pallets of wood from up top, of firewood. So I would just,
so was that allowed?
we're not storing pallets, we're just gonna store our own firewood on the pallets, and the pallets are wrapped in plastic to keep them dry. And all that wood is from the site. We're not bringing wood in. We don't have piles of wood delivered and logs delivered. We're not splitting there. We're not cutting there. That's all the wood we took down from that site. And when it runs out, it runs out. We're not,
Oh, okay, so it's not gonna be replenished
nope,
year after year?
it's just what I have there now. We have a whole row on the right-hand side. I think there's probably 15 pallets or so full of firewood, so it's about 4 feet high, 4 feet square. And we're gonna put those adjacent to the building, because I won't be burning them that much wood in the next year or so. So when the building's built, we'll put them along the building. When we're done, we'll take one at a time as we use them somewhere else to heat the houses. That's what we use it for.
Councilman?
You have here to be removed from site when completed, the green storage boxes, all trailers, vehicles except site vehicles listed above. Where are you gonna move them to?
Most of everything will go in the building. The building's for the trailers.
Says removed from the site.
From exterior, from outside. So whatever's listed down below will either be removed from the site, like all the green trailers are coming off the site, they're being recycled somewhere else. They'll be disposed of or sold. The trailer that's underneath the trusses is gonna be recycled or sold. What else is on there? You know, for the most part, our trailers are gonna go in the building. That's what the building's for our trailers. You know, and our site truck will stay adjacent to the building or inside, but it's made for plowing that site.
But, okay, you say all of our trailers for the most part.
For things like that, our dump trailer, our low bed trailer that we've moved components with, those will all be indoors. The purpose of the building is to store our own assets.
All right, and those assets are now listed at the top of this.
Correct, and some of it's for the
When I
site to
asked you
build.
if that was an inclusive, all-inclusive, you said, well, no, I might put other property of mine on there. and
Well,
that's-
if I buy or sell a trailer today and get rid of one and buy one or upgrade or something like that, you know, like one trailer's there now, when the building's built, it's a big enclosed trailer, it's on the site now, that trailer's being sold. I don't need it anymore once the building's built, because the product that's in there belongs in the building. It's all my landscape equipment. I don't need a trailer for it anymore. I just need it at the site.
If this board is going to grant you the extension, we would like that you state for the record that this is the only thing that's gonna be stored there over the next year until
Oh,
completion.
over the next year? Yes, there'll be nothing else stored there as of today for the next year,
Because
but,
your extension is for 1 year.
right, but when I build the building and I empty trailers and I sell stuff and I move stuff and I get rid of those green boxes, I may buy another trailer.
When the construction's underway, obviously, there'll be construction vehicles there. We
Right,
know
but
that.
I may buy another trailer. And if I do, I'll put it in the building, it won't be outside, and then I'll sell something else. So I like to upgrade my stuff every so many years and not have trailers that are junk or worn out or don't fit my needs. But in the next year, we have nothing coming in,
Okay.
nothing.
So I'll hold you to it again.
nothing. Believe me, there's nothing,
This is the list.
This is
of
it.
What's gonna
during the
be
next
on this.
1 year period while we build the building, that's correct.
All right.
And what about boat storage?
Just what I own, just what we have, that's right there now.
It's on the list? Is that are the boats that are stored on the site on the list?
No, Brian's boat is, Brian's, there's a couple of trailers, like his boat trailer's gonna come in now, the boat's in the water still. It was there for the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, however we loan the property. My jet ski trailer, my jet ski trailer's there now, but the jet skis are in the water, those will be stored and shrink wrapped like they are every year. So there'll be stuff coming and going, but it's the stuff we already own, that's in the water still, that's gonna go land there for the winter. Then next spring it'll come out again.
So we could add those to this list,
You
and then
can
there
if-
wouldn't be any other
Nope.
trailers, just a jet ski and a boat.
There's nothing other than what's like, but the jet ski trailer and the boat trailer for the boats in question are there now tonight.
Right, but they're not shrink wrapped and they're not.
Exactly,
right.
because the boats are still, but the trailers are there taking up space, is what I'm saying. So they're already there. The actual asset on top is not there, but the trailer's there.
Okay.
So everything that's there is there.
You understand our concern, right?
I do, I just, the only,
Public's concern,
I do, but I've talked to all my neighbors.
butters' concern.
I've talked to all my neighbors that are in front of me and next to me, and Chris and Deb across the street, and I talked to
Okay,
a couple of neighbors right that see the property, right there. And no one's giving me any complaints, and they're in support of hoping to get my building done soon, and that's about all I know about.
well, one thing's for sure, if you don't keep your word, we'll find out about it.
I'm not worried about that. I have nothing to do but tell you this, what's going on.
Hang on a second.
Yeah,
Is this the end of the first year?
Yes, I
no,
believe,
no, second year, right? Dean?
second year.
Second.
This is the second extension.
No, we never had an extension before.
Would you have a 2-year approval?
Right, Dean? I never came before for an extension, did I?
No, I believe it was a 2-year approval.
Yeah, I think it
Or
was.
was it 2-year approval?
Because I was never asked to come
Approval, I
for
think, states that there'll be no outside storage at all there.
after.
And what he's
after.
saying is
Once the
that
building
once
is
the
complete.
building's
Correct.
completed,
Correct,
that'll
yeah.
be true, but for now.
That was part of the agreement.
And what I think the board is trying to make sure you understand is there shouldn't be any expansion of the outside storage beyond what you've presented to us tonight.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah,
understand that,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Stace?
I went out there when you first, came for approval, and I don't remember any guardrail posts or fencing.
The guardrail posts have been sitting there for 6 months. There's a whole pile of them on pallets. They're
No,
sitting,
I mean that was going to be built. I didn't remember that on the plan.
no, it's not on the plan, but I want to put up some privacy after it's built. We already put in some trees. A couple of years ago, we put in like 10 or 12 trees on the left side that are growing. And there's a berm there, natural berm, so we're leaving all that. And then recently, about 6 months ago, we put a green privacy fence on the left side of the driveway. And on the right side of the driveway, it's all growth. But along that roadway, we'd like to put in a 6x8 timber guardrail,
So
And-
you'll have to be
generate
looking
some
for an
privacy.
amended site plan then.
I'll have to apply for maybe, depending on the height, I think I have to apply for a permit for fencing or something. But if it's under 4 feet, we don't need to apply for the permit, but we'll do it when the building's all done and the site's done and the grass is done and bushes are in. We'd like to put a guardrail along the front, just to make it look nice, so.
Well, you might need prior approval for that.
Right,
Dean?
right.
Can you weigh in on this question?
Depends on where it is and how big it is and et cetera. Yeah, but there may need to be an approval, but there may not be. Depends on the
So the
situation.
site plan that was approved 2 years ago
Right.
should show all the structures that will be there at the completion of the construction.
Correct.
Structures to include fencing, guardrails, things of that sort, right? Those are all structures under the ordinance.
I mean, with a wetland right next to it, you can't exactly slap a fence that close to it.
It won't be that close to it.
Depending upon the fence, it depends on whether it's covered by the ordinance or not.
Okay. So just to be clear, what's going on here is you have a site plan approval. The only thing that you're allowed to construct on that property is what's been approved. If you need to file an amended site plan.
understand that, right.
Right?
I
So
do.
like if the guardrails aren't on there, then we'll need a site plan. You may need another conditional use permit if you're gonna encroach on a wetland buffer, things like that.
I understand
You've been
that.
through this, you
No, I
understand.
understand that, yeah, it's not something that we're gonna do today. When the site's done and we wanna put the guardrail up, we'll do what we've done in the past with other properties in the city, apply for a permit, see what's required, what the guidelines are, and we'll abide by those guidelines. It's pretty straightforward,
All right, well, we
no
just
problem with that.
want to make sure you understand.
Yeah, I do, absolutely.
Any other questions for Mr. Holmesy?
Can I,
Yes,
Yeah,
of
go
course.
ahead, I'm
plug?
right here.
Just because you are surrounded by so much woods and everything, were you planning on doing motion lighting?
Motion lighting?
Yes.
What, like
instead of-
night lighting?
Right, instead of,
Um,
'cause, You do have lighting for exterior?
I do, I can do it on motion, I can do day, night, I can do whatever, it's not gonna be going on and off all night because of animals. I'll put a stop to that myself, so, you know, we could put on a timer, we could put it on a day-night sensor, you know. But it's not gonna be lighting up like Fenway Park. We're gonna have a couple of lights to accent the property and that's it. So, it's not a building that, it's gonna be locked up, it'll be alarmed, it's metal, or it's, you know, a big wood they're not gonna get in, so. We're not overly concerned about security, and there's no one living there, and so, but I don't want the lights going on and off all night, every time a car drives by or an animal jumps
Well,
out of the
no,
woods.
You can have it directed, so.
Right,
it's right at
but
the
I'll make
door.
it so that it's not gonna, if a deer runs through the wetlands or a big pigeon or a bird flies through and it's not gonna do that, if that's what your concern is. I won't tolerate that, so.
Pigeon-proof it.
We got a lot of stuff living in that pond there, that vernal pool.
Right.
But right now we don't, 'cause it's so dry, but many times we have, so.
Counselor Cheney?
Do you have a commitment from whoever to provide this building
No,
by a date certain?
no, they're all just, we'll get back to you. Send us an email, get us a check.
So
But
what do we do a year from now if you haven't gotten a building?
I'll have to deal with that then, sir, I don't know. I mean, we tried to buy it from 5 different vendors, and they're all like, yeah, we'll get back to you in 2 years. We'll put you on the list. They don't even want to talk to you. And then only, on certain buildings are only built by John, Mary, and Bill. No one else is certified to build them. Well, it's 10 years to get a hold of them because nobody's working and nobody wants to work and no one can truck it and all this other stuff. So it's very difficult, but being that we've changed the design of the foundation to ICF, instead of metal stud and wood studs, now we're going to concrete. There is a concrete shortage right now, they're saying. It's not a shortage, but you gotta wait like 3 or 4 weeks if you want concrete right now. You can't just order it and get it in 3 days because they can't get the mix quick enough to make it. So, but we feel that we'll do the ICF building and it'll be done fairly quickly. Then, once the ICF building's up, which is the insulated concrete forms, it's concrete in the middle and insulation on both sides. You leave the insulation. That's your building's done now. Now you can dress the outside with stucco, brick, wood, whatever you want, and the same thing with the inside. Wood, sheetrock, plaster, leave it open, doesn't matter, inside. So you got more flexibility and more ability with insulated concrete form. And we have a little inside connection because my partner sold to the largest vendor in the country or in the world that owns ICF.
Well, there
So-
you go.
So we hope, right, we're hopeful, very hopeful, so.
Well, it
We,
is,
we want it done as quick as everybody else, believe me.
you're not the only one that's come before us and noted that the construction costs have increased almost exponentially
It's-
in the last couple of years,
It's,
so.
it's not even just that, I'm in the automotive business. I can't get an alternator for a 2008 Ford pickup truck.
I got one.
Yeah, you got one on your desk there, yeah. No, I'm serious, like, we can't get auto parts for millions of vehicles that are on the road. I call
Right.
5 different vendors that sell, you know, you can't get them. So this is what we're dealing with the building, but we've gone a different route to hopefully alleviate that problem.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Holmesy? Any more comments from staff? No? Well, what is the pleasure of the board? This is a request for a 1-year extension to October 3rd, 2023. The understanding that the list of materials that was given to us tonight will be all-inclusive of what will be stored on the site between now and October 4th, 2023. Yes, Charlie?
I just, you don't have any comments? Is that what because I'd like to know what staff thinks about, as far as approving this. Do you have any concerns?
I think the issues that we're all aware of have been well stated. I have talked to Mr. Holmesy on multiple occasions about the accumulation of material that's there, and it's coming and going. He has made improvements lately in terms of the amount that's there, and we will continue to monitor. You know, I mean, the end result of this has got to be a building, and then at that point in time, it becomes much easier to enforce because everything is supposed to be inside the building, and so
Correct.
it becomes pretty cut and dry at that point in time. Right
So-
now, it's,
So for enforcement purposes, we can use this list, perhaps document what's on the site tomorrow,
Sure.
and then check it, you know, in the spring, and see if anything's grown,
Sure.
all right? All right, so that being, so the motion before us would be to grant the extension to October 3rd, 2023, and that's MBL 166357-5. Anybody?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Mr. Delvecchia. Is there a second?
Yes.
We have 2 seconds. We'll go with Mr. St. Clair. And any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Looks like
Can I get the count one more time?
you sure can. These are the opposed. Okay,
Opposed? Wait, what are we doing, opposed, or?
all right, do the affirmed. Those who vote in favor. Right, and opposed. There's 3 of us. All right. Thank you, Mr. Holmesy.
Thank you very
See you
much.
next year. Good luck. Have a great winter.
Thank you very much, everybody.
We're moving now to 7.2, it's PL 2014-0158 CUP amended, and that's 61 Pendleton and 205 Wentworth Cove. Request to extend the approval to construct a single-family home within the wetland buffer. And the applicant is here. And it looks like it's a request to extend to November 7th, 2023. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Let us know. Tell us who you are.
My name is
and-
John Remington. I've owned the property for 25 years. The property's under contract, and they're going to close before May 24th next year, and they're hoping to start construction immediately. We've cleared we had cut wood on our property, and we've moved that off the property. And we've recently had the property, a lot of the dangerous trees taken out. And we recognize the wetland issue. It was 30 foot when we bought the property, and if we didn't get the extension, it'd be an unbuildable site, so that's why we're before you.
Gotcha. This is a residential structure,
Yes.
right? That's, yeah, okay. Any questions regarding this?
You're gonna develop all the way in the area you cut, all that new cut area?
No, no, no.
Just only down by the shore?
No, later I'll be before you for the whole subdivision, because we're amending it.
Okay.
But there are 33 acres, and there will be 12 lots on the whole property. This is a half acre, there are a couple 1 acres, a couple 2 acres, and there's more than 50% of the site left in common open space.
Yeah, that's 9-1, so we will get to that.
So this application is for the extension? is
For
that
lot,
correct?
for lot 8.
Just for lot eight.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
So, this is a multi-lot cluster subdivision that was approved many years ago. It has gone through a couple of revisions, but, a few years ago, a CUP was granted for Lot 8, and that is the subject of this extension, is just the conditional use permit. As Mr. Remington explained, the original buffer was 30 feet. It got changed to 75. He came in for the CUP to essentially get it back to the 30 feet.
Right.
If it's at 75, there's virtually no land left on the lot that you could build on. So that was the original reasoning for the CUP. When we get to the other part of the request later on, nothing is changing on this particular lot. It's other changes in the subdivision, but nothing affecting Lot 8.
Okay. Everyone got that? So, any questions for either staff or for the applicant regarding this request to extend the approval of Lot 8 to November 7th, 2023?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And it was unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll hopefully won't see you next year, man. We'll have it all done. We'll see you in a few minutes, though. All right. We have a continued public hearing before us. It's PL 2022-0087 SP, 39 Messer Street. And the proposal to convert a single-family dwelling into multifamily. And come on in and tell us your name for the record and give us some good news. You must have some good news.
I don't. I sent this all in a while back. Sorry, I've been sick for a few days. I'm Lisa White. I own 39 Messer, and we are trying to convert my house into a 3-unit apartment or place, whatever. And we're working on our driveway issue. So, I think I sent you some paperwork, and we had, I don't even know how to explain this conditional permit or use that we had parking spaces within 1,000 feet and within 500 feet where the church is, and also where the parking garage is at for additional parking if anyone needed it, but we have the parking spaces in the driveway, so I'm not sure. I guess I'm gonna wait, see what you're telling me I need now.
Hold on one second.
So originally, the requirement, because of 3 units of housing, would be 5 parking spaces. After putting this on hold after the last meeting, we went back and looked at the ordinance. She is within the 500 feet of the city parking lot behind the church on Church Street. And so she qualifies for an alternative parking conditional use permit. So what she has proposed is, and she has room for 3 parking spaces on her property, not using the driveway, just using the parking area that's to
So the same thing that was presented last time without the 2 spaces within the driveway?
Correct. And then
That's
if there's additional parking needed for the tenants, they could use the municipal parking under, we would have to grant the CUP, but under the alternative parking conditional use permit, that would take care of that requirement.
Okay, so is the staff satisfied that the problem that was discussed at length at the last meeting was addressed?
It's addressed, and since she's not using the driveway, there is really no additional effect to the abutter.
Okay. So then we wouldn't need an agreement with the abutter or a legal opinion as to the width and because there was
Correct.
a covenant or an easement, right?
Correct.
Okay. Is everyone up to speed on that? Sounds like the problem of the 2 parking spaces is no longer a problem. That being said, is the staff recommending approval?
Staff is recommending approval of the site plan for a 3-unit apartment building, and also for approval of the alternative parking conditional use permit, yes.
Would anyone
And
care?
I have given you some suggested findings of fact. If you so choose to use those, or your own words, are encouraged as well.
Okay. Mr. St. Clair? Sure.
I have no problem with the units being built in the back there, but I am disappointed about, after our last meeting, I paid attention to the sub-lawn in front of your building there, and it looked like, okay, everybody's getting it, they're all parking on the street, they're not jacked up on the lawn, they're not blocking the neighbor's means of egress out of his driveway, you know, looking to see if there's cars coming from left. But I've noticed, including right up till this evening, everybody's back up on the sub-lawn. And they may or may not be your neighbors, or your tenants, or people live with you, or next door, but it's the same vehicles pretty much every time, because I use that street almost exclusively when I'm going towards Lakeport. And I don't know what the answer is. We know that's a
I
problem.
think if you curb, I'm sorry. I don't
Go
know
ahead.
if the curb thing, the little thing that you're supposed to stop at was higher, and you could actually see it, because it's only in pieces. It's not straight up there.
They know
'cause-
they're going up in a sub-lawn. I used to
But
live
I
there.
never knew it was wrong. I always look at, when you go to park, you're like, oh, well, if you park in because you still have lawn they're still about 2 feet. So that's even when I don't normally park my car there, I park down below.
But that
when I
problem-
do, it looks like you do. So normal people that aren't from around here would assume that,
Well,
so.
I would just like to finish and say that your neighbor brought up that that was a problem.
Yep.
He addressed it here. And I don't know, Mr. Chair or Dean, if it's something the city needs to address by putting posts out there.
It's a violation of a city ordinance, it's a police matter.
Now, if I can finish, I don't know if, because the city has done this before, when they have seeded the sublawns, they have put up those landscaping sticks, and they've run tape until the grass comes back. And normally, in the problem areas, once the posts are gone, people just go right in and do it. I mean, we've heard this for years now. But this particular spot, we know is interfering with the neighbors leaving that driveway and being able to look down and see clearly if there's vehicles coming. That's what they said. I have no
Well, and
reason to
his
doubt.
driveway, he's about 2 feet high. He's up higher. We
I don't think he's
parked
here
it.
to address
he's
that
not,
tonight,
but
but he,
it-
so my
yeah.
point is that I would like to see
Yep, mine and 35.
you guys do something about the people parking there and not say, well, the curb's too low, because everybody knows, once you go up that, you can see it, you're like this. And I don't know, I hate to use you as an example, because we have this problem in other places, but
Photographs in the packet show them parked on the sublawn in front of her neighbor's house, not her house.
oh,
They're,
no,
they're all up, they're on all the way down the
And
street.
they,
Everyone
and
does.
that would impede your view when
Yeah.
you're trying to exit your
Yeah.
own driveway.
Yeah, more so than his, the man
Charlie,
we're
I
speaking
get
of.
your,
No, but you're bringing up the neighbors, and I understand that, but we're talking with this particular address. So, because it was brought up in the last meeting, I paid attention to it,
yeah,
and we were told at the last meeting that they were gonna be talking to everybody about that, and I'm sure you have.
We tried.
I'm just
trying.
bringing it up again, because it's something that we all, that people need to work on. That's all I'm asking.
I understand that.
Thank you.
I wouldn't, the only point I'm trying to make is, it would not be the applicant's legal responsibility to dissuade people from parking there. That's a police issue, right?
To a point, but when it's right, if it's your tenants, or if your guest, I know a lot of people go there. So if it's your guest, you can certainly persuade them or say, hey, look, don't park on the grass. The street is wide enough, it's been made wide enough for you to park up against the curb and not
Maybe
interfere.
the city could just put some signs up that says,
Well,
right wheel to curb.
Yeah, I'm
That's
I'm
all,
with you.
that's what the
I'm with
law
you.
is, that's,
I'm with you, but that was discussed the
I'll,
last
I'll
meeting,
speak
Counselor?
with the,
so thank you.
I'll speak with the chief.
Okay.
Regarding,
For Public Works.
and Public Works.
and Public Works, yeah. Okay, any other questions or comments? Did we get a motion out of this? Or
We did not,
yet?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. So the motion is to grant, let me find it here. PL 2022-87 SP at 39 Messer Street. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second to Mr. St. Clair's motion?
Yes.
Okay, yes, we do have a second.
All right, does that motion include
The
the
CUP.
CUP?
Yes.
Oh, yes. No, that wasn't on my agenda, so I didn't
And
even think
your
of that.
findings of
The
fact,
CUP
please?
and the findings that are suggested in the staff report, right?
Very good.
You intended to include those in your motion?
I did.
Okay, and that's okay with the seconder?
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Anybody that lives within 500 feet of the church can use that parking lot?
No, they can get a,
Well, anybody can use the parking lot. It's a public parking lot. The city now owns that parking lot.
right.
This conditional use permit is formalizing the use as the alternative place for her parking. So for her to meet the requirement of 5 spaces, she will have 3 on site.
Right.
And we're saying, if you needed 2 additional spaces, or she may need 3 or 4 additional spaces at certain times of the year because of visitors or whatever, then they would use the parking lot.
The
because it's-
municipal
Because
parking
it's
lot.
within the 500 feet.
And if you were 600 feet away, you're not allowed to park there overnight or
No, you're still allowed to park there, but we're not formalizing the, we're
Conditional use.
basically giving,
We're allowing her to use two municipal
alleviation
spaces.
of the
Right.
parking requirement and kind of shifting it to someplace else, to a public spot.
Is that overnight parking there?
Yes.
At this moment, until the winter ban, yes, but it's subject to change. We have a parking study thing going on and, you know,
Hundreds of pages of it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, as a lot of people do in this city, when the winter parking ban goes into effect, they've got to deal with their cars overnight, and this will be no different. That they will, you know, and whatever the city decides to do with that parking lot in terms of, you know, on nights that it snow, we may just say, everybody's gotta park over here, and we'll plow this half, and then in the morning, you gotta move over, and we'll plow the other half, or whatever the city's gonna do.
That's underway, you're saying.
Right, and I don't know what the result is gonna be, but those are possible scenarios. Or they've gotta find a place off the street someplace else. Just as you can't park overnight on Messer Street from November 1st to May 1st today. So where do those cars go in December? And wherever they go then, that's probably where they go now.
All right, any other
Mr. Chair, if I
comments?
may, I have a
Yes.
question for
Sure.
the applicant. So, Ms. White, are you agreeable to the alternative parking plan?
Yep.
That's outlined in this application? 2 off-site parking spots?
Yes.
You're agreeable to that? Okay. So, this site plan then that proposes widening and paving on either side of the shared driveway, is that kind of null and void?
We've
then?
never proposed, it's been widened. We widened it 2 years ago. My neighbor put 5 feet extra on his side, but it was with just dirt, so it's widened already.
Oh.
That's what the true measurements of it are right now.
Okay, I guess I'm misinterpreting it, where it says added. So that's already been
Yeah,
accomplished?
yeah, because it was originally, I think, like, how 50, how many feet? It was so many feet wide, and then he has 5 extra feet on his side, and we added an extra 3 on our side.
As I understand it, the only difference is that there are no designated spaces within the driveway.
Within the drive, they're at the,
There's 3 down at the bottom.
at the
Right.
bottom there, the 3 that are
And the other
photographed
2
here.
will have to decide where, you know, where else to park. They will be able to park it,
At the municipal
hopefully, in a
lot.
municipal lot that will be hopefully maintained. by
And
the
you're
city.
aware of the other conditions in the application as far as building permits for the additional units and working with Public Works and Laconia Water?
Yes, I'm gonna have to call, I guess, to ask more direction, because
Yeah.
this kind of got me off track a little bit.
You'll need
but
to pull
I'll
permits, yeah.
start back
Yeah.
with that, yeah.
Okay, anybody else have any other comments or questions? Mr. Trefethan?
Once you vote on this motion, I do have something else on this matter that you also need to consider. So don't move along too quickly, please.
So the motion is the site plan and the CUP, right?
Yes.
All right, then. And any further comments or questions or discussion? No. Sensing none. All those in favor signify by raising their hands. All those opposed? All right, so the motion passes unanimously, Mr. Trefethan. What else you have for us?
So, because of the creation of 2 new additional units of housing, we would be imposing an impact fee. Because of the location of this property, they are eligible for this board to approve a waiver of up to 80% of the impact fee, because this is an infill and reuse situation. There's no additional square footage being created, this is just units being created within the existing structure. The normal impact fee for this would be almost $7,000. If you were to approve the 80% reduction, it would be just under $1,400. So that is a motion the board would need to take to approve the
The impact fee.
the waiver to the impact fee.
All right. Have you discussed this with the applicant?
I don't believe that we have, but this is obviously at her advantage, to her advantage.
Well, I get that, but, you know, pleasure of the board on this.
I'll move the question.
Second.
Second.
All right. Question's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? So the motion, just so you understand, is to waive 80% of the impact fee. An impact fee is normally imposed on conditional use permits like this to offset the impact of additional housing. So you're increasing the number of units on your lot, and that would make you subject to the impact fee. So the motion would reduce it to roughly 1,400, is that what you're saying?
Correct, just under 1,400.
All right. So, all those in favor? Opposed? All right. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your patience. All right.
Tell her I abstained from voting.
Oh, did you abstain? I did not notice. I'm sorry.
You also for this?
I voted for the
Okay.
lot, but against the impact fees are a sore subject right now.
Yeah. Okay, 9.1 is PL 2000-010, SU amended, Fourth Amendment. 61 Pendleton Road, Beechwood, proposal to amend the cluster development. Is the application in order and ready for acceptance?
Yes, it is.
So we need a motion to accept this application.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. McNeil,
I second.
and a second. Is there any discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor say aye, or raise their hands, I should say. Opposed? Mr. Cheney is abstaining from that vote. The record will show he's not here to vote. All right. You look very familiar.
You do too.
All right.
Good
Please
evening.
proceed.
Good evening. Originally, I bought the property and I looked at property for 4 years. I used this property as my guide to for my realtors. I wanted morning sun, afternoon sun, beach, long water view, driveway in the woods, some guest houses. So I'm a retired custom home builder in Florida, and I've built some really large houses, some with 10 bedrooms, and it only works for one Christmas. After that first Christmas, only 1 or 2 families will come at the same time. So the idea here was a house and a guest house for each of the properties. And originally, we had 5 lots on the beach. We reduced one a number of years ago. Number 5 got condensed into lots 1, 2, and 6. And Lot 7 owns Lot 8, so they got the house and the guest house. Lot 2 bought lots 3 and 4, so they had it. Lot 1 didn't want a second one. I have 3 daughters, so I want my beachfront and 2 for them, and then the other 3 lots are under discussion for contract. So as we looked at, we came before the planning board and came before and extended our permit our request because the Wentworth Cove extension is 50 feet wide, driveway is 18 feet wide. We put a 3-point turnaround for the fire department in 2009, and that's sufficient for them. When we started working with the addition of lots 5 and 12, the right-of-way coming from Pendleton, they wanted it to be 18 feet wide. And I looked at what it was gonna do to my property, my driveway in the woods, and that's not what I wanted. So I was able to go to the Department of Public Works, Planning, and the fire chief and said, if I was to do what was approved 3 years ago, lots 9, 10, and 11 each had 90 feet of frontage on Pendleton, and they would have had 3 driveways. So I went, and they would have been probably 10 feet wide. So I went to the fire department, if I make this 12, and it's a shared driveway, and I put a hammerhead on it, doesn't that make more sense than making 2 long driveways on those 2 properties? Less runoff, and a lot less cost is combined, and it's a nicer plan of a 12-foot driveway into the woods, and the fire department was fine with that, as long as the hammerhead had 14-foot wide paved, or meeting the town standard. So the Department of Public Works asked for And on page 3, we've given the details that they want the road to be built to the town standards, which we've agreed to, with the caveat that it's 12 feet paved, but the subbase meets all the heavy equipment requirements. And then over off Wentworth Cove Extension, we brought that right away to the end of Lot 8, and we extended over to Lot 8, and I've talked to the Lot 8 owners, because Dean indicated this fellow wants his garages to be on the south end of that lot. So Dean said the right-of-way had to touch the property for them to come across onto that part of the lot, so it'd be a separate driveway to their garages. And so we did that. And then I met with the fire department about getting lot 12, and they agreed that if I extended the right-of-way at 30 feet wide to lot 12 and paved it 12 feet wide, and back at lot 8 and 5, made an ambulance turnaround, that the fire department turnaround that we'd put in 2009 was adequate, and he just wanted to be sure emergency vehicles of fire departments could turn around for those lots as well. So the idea is lots in the woods, a smaller house. The lots 9 and 10 got larger because the buyer just wanted more property. So we stayed within the cluster subdivision of 50% open space. The assessing office asked we put the lot sizes on this instead of the butters list, so it's on page 1, upper left-hand corner. It tells you all the lot sizes, and then going through the report, we've agreed to everything that's the staff has recommended that we do going forward.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see the lot sizes. Okay, any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. Are you gonna keep that seasonal road? That's just gonna be as soon as it snows and it's not
So
passable?
we have agreement with everybody that they have to maintain the 3-season road,
Okay.
but if we pave it all the way through, or we don't, or we want to keep it open, then it's our expense.
Okay.
And the staff has asked that we put on page 2, under the notes, that this road will always be private and never maintained by the city. In our homeowners agreement and everybody's purchase agreement, they've always said they want this to be not a through road. Otherwise, we will get everybody to Governor's Island coming both ways.
It's, yeah. I
We're
live in that
gonna
neighborhood.
probably
We
put a
just had
gate, we're gonna probably put a
bridge through
gate
there,
at the wetland culvert. We put a sign up recently and people have abided, and they're not driving through this year. We let people walk through, and they've been walking through the property by the church and over to Mr.
from the other
Holmesy's
end.
property, which is, I'm a butter on the backside of Holmesy's, if you'll.
Mhm.
But he's got an isolated wetland, so it's not connected to my wetland. But my wetlands is part of his property, or his buffer.
Yeah, well, the wetlands are all kind of connected subterraneally. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Why don't we open a public hearing? It's 7:54 PM. Are there any abutters
Do we
here?
have to accept this application, or did we do that?
I think we did. I think we did that.
Chosen off.
Any abutters or members of the public here that would like to speak? This is your time. Sensing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:55, and we're ready for the riveting staff report.
So as I said earlier on the CUP extension request, there has been considerable, development already has occurred, and the original plan was done quite some time ago. There have been a couple of modifications to the plan as we've gone along. Key to this property is that it is a cluster subdivision, so therefore, the only thing that is a requirement is that each lot have some frontage to either a road, whether it be public or private, or a right-of-way, which has been accomplished on this plan. If you go down to, under staff recommendations, number 2, 2D, that talks about the road will not be a public street. It's intended to remain private and maintained by the association. We have had, as Mr. Remington has indicated, we have had numerous discussions, particularly with the fire department, but also with DPW. Fire department was concerned about how they're gonna turn their equipment around at this various points, and they are satisfied with this plan. Took us a little while to get there, but they are satisfied with this plan. DPW had some suggestions concerning the way some of the sewer lines and water lines were going to be run, but we've got that all resolved. What you see on the plan is acceptable to everyone and is part of the approval that you would be giving tonight. So staff does recommend approval of this modification to the site plan.
It's a decrease in density overall.
The original plan was 15 lots.
Right.
We're at 12 now, yes.
And that's also taking into consideration the increase in the buffer.
Right.
To 75.
Yeah, all these lots that are current or being rearranged or created are subject to the 75-foot buffer,
Okay,
except for Lot 8, which has the CUP.
all right, any questions for staff? Sensing none, the question before us is whether to approve PO 2000-010SU as amended, including the conditions of approval and the suggested findings in the staff report. Anyone want to make that motion?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Mr. St. Clair, seconded by, oh, geez, Mr. McNeil. Any discussion?
Justification? Yeah.
Did you have something?
You're gonna start construction ASAP?
On Lot 8, they're gonna, as soon as they close, they built the lot on 7, and they've been delayed getting a plan together. They went through the
You'll probably
overtime.
get some building materials from Mr. Holmes. They're right nearby.
My houses don't want that kind of used material.
There you go.
Mr. Chair, if I may, a
Sure.
question for planning. Dean, does this amended plan then show all of the updated required 75-foot buffers from the wetlands?
No, that would be
It
part of
does-
their
it-
plan updates that they need to do,
Dean?
which has,
Seen, this plan does.
it does?
It
Yes,
says
sir.
amended, so I'm
Right.
assuming, I just,
We will go through it to make sure that it. that
except
does.
Lot 8, which has a conditional use permit, is that right?
Yeah,
Lot 8 is,
yes, correct.
okay.
Right. Okay, any other questions for staff? Any further discussion on the motion? Sensing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for working with us.
Sort it out. I remember
Okay.
that like 3 years ago.
Do you?
Piece of my childhood is next. 9.2, 13 Opeachy Street, PL 2022-0078 SU. Proposal to convert form of ownership to a condominium. Is the application complete and ready for acceptance?
It is.
So could we have a motion to accept, please?
So moved.
Motion made, seconded. Okay, and any, I guess, no discussion. All those in favor, raise your hand. Charlie, there we go. All right, so the application was accepted unanimously. And Mr. Roki, how are you?
Good evening.
Good evening to you, sir.
This is my second meeting tonight. I did a selectman meeting in Chichester already tonight, too.
Well, you get around, I've
That's why
heard
you
that.
get-
I've
that's
heard
why you
that
get the
about
big
you.
And the
bucks,
last
kid.
time I was here, I tried to use the TV and it didn't work, so I'm not taking any chances.
Well, there's no TV tonight either.
Paper's always
Smartening up in your old age.
Paper's always better.
Oh, those color laser printers, aren't they wonderful?
Great.
I'm gonna drop kick mine one of these days, but it would break my foot.
Thank you. This will be a 2-unit condominium association.
Yes, indeed.
This is,
So this is it used to be what, like a bait shop or something like that?
Peachy Trading Post.
Yeah. So before Steve Smith sold to Du Bois and King, he had done a plan for, with the like a shoreline plan with the state of New Hampshire to replace the existing structures on that site with the two proposed buildings that are shown on this plan. So we had all the shoreline approvals that we needed. We had applied for building permits, and we were granted, we were issued building permits for the two proposed structures. Later, we found out that we needed a special exception, or it was an equitable waiver of dimensions for distance to the shoreline, which we went,
ZBA.
which we went to the ZBA, and we have received that also. And to be able to sell the units, like, we could actually occupy the two units and rent them out or do whatever as they are. But to be able to sell them, we need a subdivision, basically a condex subdivision approval, which we're here asking for this evening. I don't know if most people have probably seen this, the units are completely done, everything's ready to go.
Yep.
We got held up with the ZBA thing for a little bit, but we're here asking for the approval on the condo subdivision now.
Don't the condo docs have to be approved by the AG?
No, only if it's 10 units or more. Condexes do not.
Condex.
It's a term for like 2-unit condo.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
It's a portmanteau of
Yeah,
duplex.
actually, it might not be correct in that. It might be like a duplex that's a condo that is a condex, but it's basically a two-unit condominium is what we're proposing.
Yeah, it's a condominium, minimum.
Yep.
Yeah. Condominium.
Yes.
Do you like that, Bruce?
I'm
Yeah. Okay,
hoping for some peace before this is all over.
any questions for the applicant? Staff? Oh, we gotta do the, public hearing. Stacy, did you have a question?
Oh, I did, but if.
Go ahead.
The little, gray here, is that parking?
No, those are the sidewalks. After I printed this out, I realized that there is like a little porch connection to the sidewalk to the building. They don't just end right before the building. There's a little, you can actually go upstairs into the buildings.
The dark gray is the paved area.
The dark gray actually, the dark gray is all, pervious pavement. That was
Right.
part of the, approval process with the state of New Hampshire. So I did Opeachy Street as, the regular pavement, and the parking area is pervious pavement.
Got it. Any other questions?
How'd you make out in Chichester?
Not very good.
Any other germane?
That's a completely different,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
completely different story,
Any
though.
other germane questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. Stacy?
I'm sorry, I think I am confused.
Yep,
This gray area, these are the two units that just got built, right?
yep, brand new.
Okay.
Yep.
I do want to mention that conservation had a lot of issues during building.
Okay.
Because they were going by and they were not seeing any protection whatsoever. And we just had a presentation at the beginning
Yep.
about all the silt going into the lake, and there was a lot of runoff.
I have no idea
So,
on that.
just
I know
wanted
Jim,
the
I know Jim
board-
Lyman was doing the construction on it, and,
So-
they called me and asked me some questions on it, but I never actually went to the site during construction of it.
Oh, yeah.
So these two are going in front of those even closer to the water.
These buildings.
No, the site is completely done.
It's all built.
It's all done.
It's all built.
Nothing-
The
there's
runoff concern was
That's the
during
parking lot.
The
construction.
gray stuff is pavement.
Gray stuff is the parking lot, and yeah,
No, I
it's,
got it.
it's all completely done.
Yep. If
I
they-
knew there was something
Yep.
already done.
Yep,
And we did address the erosion control during construction. You're right, at the very beginning,
Okay.
minimal to none, and we did address that. Taylor went out and set them straight.
Okay, any other questions? Sensing
Now
none?
I'm done.
Sensing none. We'll declare the public hearing open at 8:06 PM. Are there any abutters? No? Any members of the public? Any ghostly spirits? Sensing none, we'll close the public hearing at 8:06 and 15 seconds. And we'll turn it over to staff.
Staff recommends approval of the condominium form of ownership. We would still like to look at the condominium documentation when it's ready.
Yep, I actually have that in my, it just came this afternoon in my email, so I'll forward that to you.
And I do want to address the issue with the waiver of dimensional requirements. When they came in for their building permits about a year ago now, I think it was, they talked with me about it, and I thought that this lot was exempt from the Shoreline Protection Overlay District, and it is not exempt, so, but that was my mistake. I thought it was, and so we issued the building permits. And when we received the foundation certification plans to review, it was at that time that we realized that there was an issue, and by the time we got everything resolved, obviously they were, for all intents and purposes, pretty well done, but we did go to the zoning board, and they did receive their waiver of dimensional requirements at the July 18th meeting. So they are perfectly legal and have all their waivers and everything. I want to point out too the finding of facts that we have suggested to you, and there are a couple of minor revisions to the plan that needs to be submitted. And we're ready to go.
I have a question. Wouldn't this approval be subject to impact fee?
We have already addressed that with the site plan approval, the previous site plan approval. This is just approving the condo form of ownership. But the original approval, which created a two-lot,
Yep.
a two-structure site plan, it includes impact fees, yes.
Okay, so it's not, we don't have to waive that on this part of the application.
No, there's no waiving of impact fees on this one,
All right,
because it's not infill or reuse.
okay. Any other questions for staff? All right. Well, other than the sad feeling I get when I look at these buildings instead of the, right? Because we're old, and I used to walk by that building every day on the way home from Memorial Junior High School. They sold everything I needed, cigarettes, candy, and vape. Cigarettes,
As a kid,
candy,
as
and
a
vape.
kid, you were walking by and you got your cigarette.
Bert Cotton.
Sure.
yes, God bless him. And his wife, they lived in the trailer, and she was a librarian, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it, Mrs. Cotton? Anyway, so much for memory lane. Any other comments that are germane? Bruce? No?
Sorry.
What is the pleasure of the board then? Would someone care to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion that we approve PL 2022-0078 SU 13 Opeachy Street, citing that they're meeting all the subdivision requirements, and zoning district allows this. It's just a change of ownership.
All right,
And the finding of facts.
and you meant to include the findings of fact that were recommended?
That was the findings of fact, that they
Oh, you
meet
read
all,
them.
they meet all regulations.
By God, he was way ahead of us. All right, made and seconded.
Pay attention in the meeting.
I'm trying. Any further discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Looks like another unanimous vote. So we are
Thank you very much.
sorry about Chichester, but there was nothing we could do.
Just remember, keep saving the best for last.
That's right, there you go.
Mr.
All
Chairman,
right.
Mr. Chairman,
Unfortunately,
who was the second?
The reputation of being able to help people, and
I forget.
it doesn't always work.
Who's the second on that?
Who was the
Who
second? on-
seconded that motion?
Bruce did, okay.
Bruce did, thank you. I have to get better at calling them out, and I keep forgetting to do that. Okay, new business. I just have one thing for new business. Many of you have probably not had a chance to check your email, but I did send you some photographs. Dean, did you happen to see what I sent out?
No.
Okay, so, you may recall that we approved, a development at, I think it's 59 Clinton Street in Lakeport. It was a single-family home that was going to be demolished, and then, there was going to be a fence erected on either side, and a small new building put in as an artist studio. And I'm just curious as to whether staff is aware of the fact that it's basically a gravel parking lot with no building on it and two nice, brand-new, white fences, and not much else. There's some grade stakes there.
Yeah, the one says building corner. on it.
Right, but the stakes, as I can see, do not correspond to the outline of the building. There are no foundations, no footings. It's just a gravel parking lot with some lines drawn on it and some stakes in the back, so they have until the completion date, which would be May, I think, of next year, if I'm not mistaken, wouldn't they? To put the building in, but it does seem a little odd. My question to staff would be, can they use it as a parking lot in its entirety while it's technically under construction?
Yes, and I'm trying to remember if they have applied and received a building permit. I don't want to say one way or the other, because I'm inclined to say that they have, but I'm not positive about that, so but we certainly can check on that.
I was driving around admiring the fine paving that had been done in the neighborhood after the destruction of their streets, and it actually is very, very nice. All those streets are in wonderful condition. Then I drove by and I saw these nice new fences, and I remember perfectly well the hearing that we had and what the abutters said about the fence, and then I said, well, where's the building? Maybe they're building one of these new invisible buildings that I hear so much about.
They probably wanted to put the fence up before they started digging the holes for the foundation to keep people from wandering in and falling in.
Well, I think,
Safety fencing.
yeah, could be, it could be. But I guess I just wanted to bring it to staff's attention so that maybe they could inquire as to
We'll check it out, we'll let you
how
know.
are things going, yeah, okay. Any other new business? Okay, so then let's move on, shall we? We don't have any old business, I don't believe.
I do have a question for the planning director that I think relates to old business, if I may.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Dean, do you know, did the Blueberry Lane project get the grant that they needed to proceed with that project?
They did, and we issued building permits yesterday for both of their buildings, the 2 6-units.
Yes.
Oh, good, yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Great question.
We are in line to receive, let's see, that's 12 units. We are in line, the city is in line to receive $120,000 as part of the state of New Hampshire affordable housing program that they instituted.
Invest in New Hampshire?
Yeah, that we will receive.
Is that the one that, the grant deadline was
September.
last month, right?
Well, there are 3 or 4 different programs, and they all have different deadlines, but I believe that one was, yes.
Okay. All right, and any other old business?
I have a question, 'cause
Sure.
it's not on.
Well, the next
there.
thing is planning department, so,
Well, I was just wondering about the I missed the master plan meeting there, and did you guys get anywhere on the height?
No, we did not really get anywhere on the height. Continues to be elusive, no consensus one way or the other. I did give some information to the Master Plan Steering Committee about some of the properties that have been mentioned here in the past, particularly the Lake Street cottages, that a few of them have gone up in height. The tallest one is 33 feet. It's not as tall as I think we thought it was.
Lake Street?
Lake Street, across from
By the
in
cemetery.
between Margate and White Oaks.
Oh, there in the back there.
Yeah, the elevator shafts that have been
Back there.
built. The,
In Lakeport, we call them penthouses.
yeah, well,
Yes.
in this case, we did not come to any conclusions. However, what I did state to the master plan steering, and I told them that I would repeat it here today, so I will repeat it here today. And that is, personally, from a staff standpoint, I don't believe that we should be changing the regulation. However, certainly if applicants come in the areas that this board has discussed as being sensitive to the height restriction, i.e. Lakeside Avenue, maybe parts of Union, and potentially other areas of either the CR or the UC district, that I will point out to the prospective applicants that there is some concern about height from the board, and that they can expect, if they're gonna be proposing something at, say, the 60-foot height or whatever, that they can expect pushback from the planning board on that item, and maybe they want to think about what it is exactly they wanna propose. And I'm hoping that that will satisfy the long-range concern. And the other thing that I told the board is, since you have vocalized this issue on numerous occasions now, if you truly believe, a board as a whole, obviously you've got to get majority of board to agree, that the proposed height is too high, regardless of what it is, whether it's 60 or it's 55 or it's 50 or whatever it turns out to be, for that particular situation, and you can identify the reasons, then you could deny the application, and I think you would have a fair shot of prevailing in court. Examples that I've given you in the past are, if someone came in and next to an historic church, let's say, and decided they wanted to build a 60-foot mega building, you may say, that's not the appropriate place for a mega building.
Kind of late for that in Lakeport, isn't it?
Right, well, or Lakeside Avenue, and I have contact with the owner of that cottage. They will be demolishing soon, and they do have plans, although I'm not privy to what those plans are, but certainly I would have the conversation with them that if they want to propose a 60-foot high condominium building or whatever it is that they're going to propose, that there's going to be pushback from the planning board on that item, and so they've got to act accordingly.
I, of course, respectfully disagree with you, because I think that if it's not solid in an ordinance or whatever you wanna call it, they're gonna go to court. And we're not gonna, if it's not there in hard writing that this is not allowed in this particular area, I think they'll prevail in court. And I think the city sets itself up for failure by not identifying these areas and having it in cold writing and saying, this is what's allowed and this is what's not allowed. That makes me very nervous, Dean.
And I appreciate that, Charlie, and you know, we've been discussing this matter now for at least 9 months, maybe longer, and we collectively have not come to a consensus of what the number should be, so therefore, I can't.
The existing ones will remain in effect until we come up with something.
Right.
Yeah,
The other
200
thing that
200
was
feet.
discussed was the concept of expanding a non-conforming use, or basically doubling or tripling the square footage being used by going vertical, and whether that's a factor that could be considered. I think I agree with Dean that so long as this board makes findings that are rational, just rational, based upon concerns from the public or concerns from members of the board, we don't have to allow a structure to be erected at the maximum height. They don't have an absolute right to that. That's just the maximum in the dimensional table. We can say, well, all right, it says 50, but we don't think that's appropriate for the following reasons. It would require more staff preparation, I think, for us in order to make a determination like that. But as Dean said, there was no conclusions were reached by the committee yet. But at the next meeting, which I'm sure you will attend, then we'll be able to discuss it at length.
And that meeting is what date?
We don't have, I haven't set the date yet.
It's a TBD, that, whenever that is.
End of October sometime, I'm not sure exactly when.
Before Halloween, Charlie, don't worry, and it won't be that night.
I just, with all, again, you're talking about Judy Kahulik's house, it's not really a cottage, it's a house on Lakeside Avenue. And you said that they've got plans, but you're not privy to them.
Correct.
And you're darn right you're not, because I put money on the table, that's gonna be vacant until they try to force the owner out next door and have a total thing. So that place will stay vacant for a long time, because that owner's has no plans of selling her house. And
And it's adjacent to, almost 3 acres of, well, what used to be vacant land, right?
a property that they own.
But
Right.
We can't target one property, though.
Well, that's right, that's fine, don't target it. My point is that without having something solid, we're always gonna have people playing these little games.
So maybe the request should be to the planning department is that if someone is submitting plans to develop something, say, over 45 feet,
Especially under performance zoning.
can we get some information on abutting properties? Like, the
Yes.
height of the houses around that, we can use that as ammo and say, you're requesting a 60-foot building. The greatest height of an abutter is 35 feet. This is not gonna be aesthetic to that zone and that neighborhood.
Right.
And we
Yes.
are denying your request because of that.
Yes, you can ask for that information. You can table it until they can give that to you. It was absolutely one of the things that we did discuss the other night, along with, you could request 3D visualization that shows this building in different angles so that you can see what it's blocking or not blocking.
We could specify the view, I think is what I said. With these 3D computer design programs, you can literally say, well, what's this building gonna look like from 1,000 feet at this angle?
That's great, but we already know what the heights are of the whole neighborhood up there.
Yeah.
So why do we have to go and
Because
justify
maybe,
our decision.
because we can't make any,
Arbitrary.
that's right,
I don't know what's
arbitrary.
arbitrary about it, the height is there.
Well, it would appear that way to
The
perhaps
height
an
is
applicant.
there, we know the height of all the buildings
I think
up
you want
there.
numbers because 3D can be fudge. I've done this myself. Like,
Yeah, but I think, I think the board has a legal right to decline an
I haven't
application,
noticed that being,
given enough justification for that.
I haven't seen that from this board or prior boards, where people say, in the neighborhood, you look all around you, I haven't seen that.
Well, I think this is more
worry
appropriately
that.
taken up within the committee.
I'll be there.
Because we don't have a specific proposal before us, and we're only talking
Okay.
in general terms.
All
I
right.
understand what your concerns are, but I don't think it's, that we can go much further with this tonight,
Okay,
certainly
you're
not.
right, you're right, absolutely right.
All right,
I do have a couple other items.
yes, go for it.
Earlier, we had a brief discussion about the state school property. I will be in Concord tomorrow morning, meeting with Department of Administrative Services and a group of other people reviewing the 4 proposed applications from individuals that want to purchase the entirety of the state school property and do, they all have a very different view of what they want to do. And we'll be reviewing those 4 proposals, and then Department of Administrative Services is gonna tell us how we're going to proceed after that, because I don't know what the process is, and it has not been vocalized, and we've been spoon-fed information. I have seen the proposals, I have seen them online ahead of time, so I know what they are. But what the process after tomorrow is going to be, I don't know.
So what is the purpose of the meeting tomorrow?
Purposes of the meeting tomorrow is to review the 4 proposals and to voice our encouragement or our disapproval of certain aspects of the proposals, and potentially arrive at a recommendation that they're going to make to governor and council. But
Members of the planning board allowed to attend?
it is not a public meeting.
Well, okay.
It's the proposals.
Is anybody
There
going
you
with you?
go.
There is no one from the city going, no one else from the city going with me, no.
It's a by invitation
Yes,
only,
by invitation only. There are
but it's not a
6 or
public,
7 people on this.
not a public body, so they don't have
Correct.
to meet 91A.
Correct.
So what did you mean by the proposals are online?
They are on a private online server that I have
Oh,
been given
man.
access to. They are not available to the public.
Could,
Been,
would this
you
board,
know, secret double probation, told not to share any of this
so
information.
could this board perhaps adopt a resolution this evening that decries the process that that's being used for this? For doing all this decision-making under the cloak of secrecy?
Sure
We
you
could
can.
adopt such a resolution, could we not?
Can I
Yes,
weigh
please,
in?
jump in.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I spent a few years down there, and I think I can speak with some authority as to how the machinations go. And I think I can assure you that the recommendations they make may have absolutely no effect on what comes out the other end. I'm sorry to say that, but we're talking politics at this point, and, you know, if you want to know what's going on, I suggest you talk to our governor's counselor, Jim Kenney.
I think I agree with you there, but what I'm getting at is that, as a matter of state law, this is the board that is in charge of developing and implementing the master plan for the city of Laconia. And this is a major development that's going to be within the city of Laconia, and we're being told you can't participate, you can't even be present.
What we have going for us, Mr. Chairman, is we have zoning. And right now, that area is zoned
Our R1, 2 acre zoning.
2-acre zoning. Whoever's going in there is gonna want
They'll have to
changes
come
made.
to us.
So they're gonna have to come to us with their hat in their hand, for lack of a better term.
We
and-
could probably come up with a better term, but yeah, I get you.
So I guess what I was trying to say a minute or two ago is, this may be putting our foot forward a little too early. We're gonna have, I think, this board and the city is gonna have a lot more strength to deal with this development once we get beyond it's sold to Harry Cafointon and the 3 kazoos. I mean, it's immaterial.
How did you know?
That's an LLC. It's Pogus Kazoo.
I just don't think,
Brady Sullivan.
you know,
No, you can't say that. We'll get a restraining order.
I just think to step out and complain about the process at this point may stiffen
Okay.
people's approach to sharing with us. The fact that they let him in the room, in my view, is unusual for this group.
Are you willing to wear a wire?
No, but I was thinking of wearing a tie. I mean,
There
you know,
you
I kind
go.
of want to look official, you know?
right.
I really do think.
Representing Laconia, comb your hair.
I think the Laconia, I think the city councilor's comments are well taken, and I stand down from my formal indignation. You may proceed.
All right, 2 more things. I regret to inform you that Taylor will be moving on. She has, in another week or so, she has a wonderful opportunity in her home state, and we wish her well, and she will be missed. So in conjunction with that, we have been recruiting for the assistant planning position, and we have started the recruitment process for the conservation technician. I have made an offer to a person for the assistant planning position, but they have not confirmed or accepted yet. So we just made the offer yesterday, so that's not unusual. But so keep posted.
Taylor, thank you so much for the work that you did. It was gonna be of great use to the master plan committee, and as we try to pull all that information together. What's your home state?
My whole family's from Connecticut.
Oh,
The People's Republic of.
Whereabouts in Connecticcut?
That's
Suffield?
nice. That's nice.
Southfield?
Suffield. It's on the,
I know where Southfield is. I had an aunt and uncle that lived there many years ago.
Fairfield.
Well, congratulations.
thank you.
One planning board meeting and she's out.
I know. Well, our loss is their gain. Thank you very much. Anything else, Steve?
What is this poor soul sitting there?
Well, I was gonna ask, maybe it has something to do with Historic District Commission?
No.
No?
I'd like a few minutes of the board's time, if possible.
We really can't take any public input at this point, but if you wanna drop something off for the staff to look at.
Well, I had a whole spiel put together, if you don't mind.
Whole spiel?
Yeah. Regarding the 60-foot height limit.
This is about the height issue.
Oh, it is? Well,
important spiel.
I still think we should notice a public hearing before we take public input, right?
Yeah. It's a citizen's comment.
Yeah.
It's at your discretion, Mr. Chair.
Oh, well, then you may proceed. Just say your name for the record and give us your
Thank you.
spiel.
Can you give us a half a spiel?
What's that?
Can you give us a half a
Half a
spiel?
spiel,
Half a spiel?
a mini spiel.
Getting late.
My name is Russ Poirier. I'm a real estate broker. I live at 375 Endicott Street North. I have an outrageous view. I can see Wolfboro on a clear day. I came up here about 40 years ago, and I love this area. I'm never going back. But I'm still a real estate broker at heart. And I got lucky up here. I sold the Meredith Marina right away, and last year we sold Rich Haven. And my point is that how many here have been to the drive-in theater in Laconia?
Recently or ever?
Not in a few years.
All the time.
But you've been there.
Right. Sure.
The drive-in theater consists of 12.6 acres of land. But the paved area is only 4 acres. So anyone who's been to the drive-in has only seen 4 acres. There's 13 acres there. I'll be glad to hand this stuff around. if you
Please.
like.
Thanks.
And I've got some photographs. Everybody knows about 100 years ago. 100 years ago, this was a thriving hotel. But 100 years ago, they only had 7 bedrooms, but they had 100 rooms. 7 bathrooms, but they only had 100 rooms. It burned down, 12 acres burnt with it. And the drive-in abuts the rail line that goes all the way to Canada. The rail line is talking about reopening to Conway. And I'm trying all by myself to get it up to the Weirs and beyond to Canada. I managed a 40-unit building up here, and I filled it in the winter with municipal employees, I filled it with hospital employees, I filled it with students with their parents' permission. It's easy. This is what I would like to see on the drive-in.
It looks remarkably like this one right now. What was the name of the one that burned down?
Yeah, that's the one that burned down.
What
yeah.
was it, the name of it, sir?
It was just Weir's Beach
Was it
Hotel.
the Aqua
Weir's
Garden or
Hotel.
something like that?
Yeah.
It's the Weir's Hotel, I think.
Weir's
Beach
Hotel?
Yeah,
Okay.
People came up from Boston to go there.
Oh,
I wish I had.
the Weirs Beach was, I think we're well aware, it was developed by the railroad, just
Yeah.
as the Mount Washington.
Well, I know you're all familiar with it.
Yep,
This is what I'd like to see on the drive-in.
okay. Well-
This is a rendering I can't give you. But this is 7 stories high, 70 feet, and then the gable end, to accommodate the elevators, is another 12 feet. So it's 82 feet. This is another rendering. This rendering is 100 rooms. I can prove the need for 100 rooms at Weir's Beach.
Do you own this property?
No, I represent the owner.
Oh, I
as-
see.
As the real estate broker. yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, that particular rendering that's going around has a glass elevator going up the center to capture the views. It also has a dirt track going all around the entire site to accommodate Bike Week. It also has room for 3 pad sites out front and retail on the first floor. I have a buyer for that. But all these buyers that I have now are concerned about the 60-foot rule. This is another rendering. This rendering is in 2 stages. The first stage
You know, I'm
is,
gonna stop you right now, because this is a site-specific conceptual proposal. There's a process for that. You should submit these materials to the planning department, and they will schedule you for a conceptual review with the public available to see it all. But this is way too in-depth. I mean, I understand what you're getting at. Many of us would like to see that site redeveloped. But this is a very specific thing, and I think we need to follow the procedures that we normally do. Mr. Poirier, I mean, I understand what your concerns are about the height limitation. That's an ongoing discussion. And we can certainly take into consideration the fact that the property owner would like to be free from the 60-foot restriction, but we really aren't there yet. But we'd be happy to have you or your representatives come back at some other time to do a conceptual presentation when you have, a buyer, or at least a potential buyer, so that we can discuss a specific application. You see what I mean?
yes, I do. If I could say one last thing.
Sure.
Recently, because of a rumor of artifacts on this site, the seller spent tens of thousands of dollars to hire 6 archaeologists. They dug 39 holes.
Test pits there.
They were there for weeks and found nothing, and I have the state's final results.
That would be something else that the staff would be very interested in obtaining.
Okay,
There is a 10,000-year-old Paleo-Indian site underneath that parking lot.
There's what?
A 10,000-year-old Paleo-Indian site under that parking lot that was excavated in the 1970s and then just backfilled.
Yeah.
So that will be an issue for the buyers to have to deal with. But I didn't know they were doing test pits up there.
They did, that was last year, and they dug, I don't know how many holes it was. numerous
39 holes.
But they came up with no results.
Well, there is a plan, I've seen it, for, that details where the previous excavations were. It was a very rich site. It was a seasonal village for the Native American population, gathering fish and things of that sort. They didn't have snowmobiles in those days, so. All right,
They didn't come by train either.
no, probably not.
Well, I'm sorry to take so much of your time.
Well, no, it's all right. Next time, give us advance notice and we'll move you up on the docket. How's that?
Yeah, can I have my pictures back?
Sure. You certainly
Dean's
may.
forwarding them.
Dean, I just had one thought.
Yeah.
Looking at Mr. Holmesy's list here, would it behoove the city to go out and document everything that's there now? So
We will do that, yes.
going forward,
Please.
Why don't you just take pictures on your way home and send them to me?
I have to deal with him every day going by and, so.
You wave to him?
I think we made it clear
They
that,
don't actually call that waving if you.
Or you have to
think
put
the
up
board-
at least 2 fingers for it
I
to be a
think the
wave.
board made it clear that we are going to hold him to that list.
I sure hope so.
Well, he was trying to squirm out of it, but I think we got that on the record, so. Is there anything else for us this evening? Sensing none, would someone care to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All right, well then, we are adjourned. We stand adjourned at 8:42. Thank you.
Taylor, good luck in Connecticut.
Good luck. Taylor.
Life is good?
How am I making a mess? Hey, let's stay some.
So last month, Kalina said, oh, where do you see the docket for next month?
Yeah.
What happened?
We had a couple of,
Last minute,
yeah.
the conceptual was